Hi, kids, and welcome to another episode of Bible Stories with Your Mom. We are finishing chapter 7 today, and we are starting on the very well known story of Samson. So, let me get my little thing set up here. Might have some troubles. Hang on, get my stapler and make it work. Still not working. Look, wah! Let's try something else. There, that worked. Okay. So, Samson. After the Philistines had oppressed Israel for 40 years, the angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife. The couple was childless, but he told her that she was going to conceive and have a son. He instructed her to dedicate him as a Nazarite, which meant that he was not to drink wine, cut his hair, or touch anything ceremonially unclean. Also, the Lord promised him power to deliver Israel from the Philistines. Manoah couldn't believe it. The promise was too wonderful to be true. He asked for confirmation, and the angel of the Lord appeared a second time, repeating instructions about being a Nazarite. Manoah prepared a sacrifice to offer to the Lord. When he placed it on the altar, flames shot into the air, and the angel ascended in the fire. Manoah and his wife were so awestruck they fell on their faces. They realized they had seen God. When Manoah's wife gave birth to a son, she named him Samson. The Lord empowered Samson and filled him with his spirit. However, though the Lord wanted Samson to honor him and serve as a man of God, Samson was indifferent to God's will and used his strength to satisfy his selfish desires and ruthlessly exploit the Philistines. It isn't an episode of Bible Stories with Your Mom unless I'm mispronouncing something. I digress. Let's move on. When visiting the city of Timnah, Samson spotted an attractive Philistine girl and asked his parents, maybe it should be, Samson asked Samson's parents to let him marry her. He badgered them until they reluctantly agreed. On his way to Timnah, Samson was attacked by a lion, but the Spirit of the Lord empowered him and he tore it apart with his bare hands. Later, when he returned to marry the girl, he saw a swarm of bees in the lion's carcass and scooped honey out of it. He didn't tell his parents he had violated his Nazarite vow by touching a dead animal. In Timnah, Samson hosted a party and tried to humiliate the Philistines by betting them 30 expensive sets of clothes that they couldn't solve a riddle. He said, out of, out of the one who eats came something to eat. Out of the strong one came something sweet. The Philistines forced Samson's wife to get the answer by threatening to kill her family. They won the bet, but in a sense, they lost because Samson killed 30 Philistines and took their clothes to pay the bet. Then the girl's father gave her to Samson's best man. Though married, the girl continued to live in her father's house. When Samson wanted to have sex with her, her father wouldn't let him. He told Samson to marry her younger sister. Samson was so mad that he destroyed the Philistines' grain harvest. He caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together in pairs, and put a torch in the tails of each pair. He lit the torches and set the foxes loose in the fields. That's just kind of sad. The Philistines retaliated by murdering Samson's wife and her father. Samson was furious and slaughtered the murderers, ripping them limb from limb. This only escalated the violence. The Philistines attacked Judah. Instead of seizing the opportunity to overthrow their oppressors, Samson let the men of Judah tie him up with ropes, and when he was turned over to the Philistines, he easily broke the ropes and killed 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. Samson went to the city of Gaza and had sex with a prostitute. When the men of the city heard Samson was there, they plotted to ambush him at dawn. Instead of spending the entire night with the prostitute, Samson got up at midnight, ripped off the city gates, and carried them to the top of a hill near Hebron, a distance of about 40 miles. A short time later, Samson fell in love with a Philistine woman named Delilah. The Philistines realized this was an opportunity to defeat Samson, so they bribed Delilah to find the secret of his strength. After 4 attempts, Samson revealed the truth. My hair has never been cut. While Samson slept in the lap of Delilah, she cut his hair. When Samson woke up, he didn't realize the strength of the Lord had left him. The Philistines captured him, gouged out his eyes, and forced him to grind grain like an animal. The Philistines had a festival. They held a festival to celebrate Samson's capture and praised their god Dagon for their victory. When they were drunk, they brought Samson into their temple to ridicule him. Because he was blind, Samson asked a servant to place his hands on the pillars supporting the temple. Samson asked the Lord to restore his strength. Pushing mightily, he prayed, "Let me die with the Philistines." The temple collapsed, killing several thousand Philistines and Samson. His brothers retrieved his body and buried him in the family gravesite. After the death of Samson, Israel didn't have a king to provide national leadership. The tribes disintegrated into spiritual and social chaos. Micah, who was from Ephraim, stole silver coins from his mother. When his mother cursed the thief, Micah confessed he had stolen the coins himself. Instead of disciplining her son, she commended him for admitting that he had stolen and made an idol from some of the coins. Micah used the idol to set up an altar in his home and hired a Levite to serve as his personal priest. Scouts from the tribe of Dan, still looking for places to settle, discovered that the residents of Laish, probably messed that up, so I'm sure you're so surprised, discovered that they had a good life and were living in peace. The scouts also found out about Micah's shrine, so en route to Laish, several hundred armed men went by Micah's home, confiscated the sacred objects, and forced Micah's priests to serve their entire tribe. They made a surprise attack, burned Laish to the ground, rebuilt it, and named it Dan. For their religious shrine, they appointed a descendant of Moses as their priest and worshipped Micah's idol. A Levite decided to take a concubine, a secondary wife, from the town of Bethlehem. But after he brought her home, she despised him and returned to Bethlehem. After 4 months, the Levite decided to go and persuade the woman to come home again with him. He convinced her father to give him his daughter. On the way home, they spent the night in Gibeah, 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 you know, who knows? Gibeah. Gibeah. It is not bedtime Bible stories with mom unless I'm struggling through. In the tribal area of Benjamin. They were sitting in the town square when an older man offered to let them stay at his house. While they were eating the evening meal, a group of violent young men demanded the older man give them his visitor so they could have sex with him. The man refused, offering instead his daughters. They became threatening, so the Levite gave them his concubine. After they raped her all night, she stumbled back to the house and collapsed at the front door. When the Levite found her in the morning, she was dead. He took her body home, cut it into 12 pieces, and sent a piece to each tribe of Israel. Everyone was appalled, me included. The leaders of the tribes, along with 400,000 warriors, assembled at Mizpah. When the Levite testified to what had happened, they unanimously agreed the offenders should be executed. But the tribe of Benjamin refused to hand the offenders over for punishment. This amounted to a declaration of war. The Benjaminites were highly skilled warriors, and though outnumbered 3-1, they defeated the other tribes twice, inflicting heavy casualties. After their second defeat, the other tribes were ready to give up, yet the Lord encouraged them to attack a third time. They made a frontal attack, luring Benjamin's warriors into an ambush. It worked, and the Benjaminites fled. Israel pursued the survivors and killed all but 600 men. They systematically slaughtered people and animals in all the towns of the tribe of Benjamin. The Israelites had sworn that they would never permit their daughters to marry anyone from Benjamin, but now they felt sorry for almost annihilating the tribe. They decided to fix the matter by punishing the town of Jabesh Gilead for not joining them in the war. I'm a little confused at that, but okay. They attacked and killed everyone except 400 virgins. They gave these to the remaining Benjaminites for wives. When 200 of the surviving warriors still did not have wives, the Israelites allowed the warriors to kidnap their virgin daughters when they went to Shiloh for the annual grape festival. Because there was no king, everyone did what seemed right in his own eyes. None of that seems right to me. None of that. Anyway, we're moving on to Ruth. Ruth. Not everyone was trapped in Israel's destructive cycle of sin and oppression. Thank goodness. An outsider named Ruth became the great grandmother of David and an ancestor of Jesus Christ. A famine forced Elimelech to his family to move to Bethlehem to Moabi, a country southeast of the Dead Sea. His two sons married Moabite women, but then Elimelech and his sons died unexpectedly. Of course, I'm going to have to say this name 100 times. Elimelech, Elimelech, wife, Naomi, decided to return to Israel, but gave her Moabite daughters-in-law permission to stay. Ruth, though, loved Naomi and made a surprising commitment to her and to God. Wherever you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. When I was at Paula's wedding, that was part of her wedding vows, and it was very, very sweet. Wherever you will go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. That's a good one. In Bethlehem, the two women struggled to survive until Ruth went out to glean in the fields of Boaz. Boaz noticed the attractive young woman and told his workers to respect her and make sure she was able to gather enough grain for food. When Naomi asked Ruth who owned the fields where she was gathering grain, she discovered they belonged to Boaz, who was a close relative. Naomi told Ruth to meet Boaz at his threshing floor, where he slept to guard his grain, and tell him she was available to marry him. Boaz could not believe Ruth wanted to marry him. She was much younger and was not obligated to marry within her mother-in-law's family. Boaz assured Ruth that he would do everything necessary to provide for the two women. Though he wanted to marry Ruth, Boaz knew a closer relative had the first right of marriage. Boaz explained the situation, but the man declined. He did not want to endanger his inheritance. Boaz did not waste any time. The elders were witnesses that Naomi's closest relative had declined his option to marry Ruth, so Boaz took Ruth as his wife. They named their son Obed. Obed had a son named Jesse. Jesse had a son named David. In an amazing unfolding of events, Ruth, an unknown woman from the land of Moabi, became the great grandmother of Israel's greatest king. That is the end of chapter 7. And next time we will start chapter 8. I love you.